Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
All
Doing great.
right. God, what have you done in Ukraine, Wilkins? What's going on?
Well, I'm gonna go to Georgia, so it's kind of next door.
Oh my
And
God. Oh yeah,
yeah,
are you going to Georgia in spite of all of
tomorrow.
this?
Tomorrow, yeah, I'm going to Georgia tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh damn,
hmm
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Whoa, okay. I don't know. Right now, Russia doesn't seem to be the direction to head in, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, what's interesting. I was gonna say what's funny, but I don't mean funny. But what's interesting is the about a month ago when I set my intentions to go to Georgia to some of my students, they were saying, "Ooh, but have you heard about Ukraine Russia thing?" And I was like, "What? No, I haven't heard about it. I'm not worried about it." And then a month on, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And like you said, right now the invasion's happening. And for me personally, I have students in Ukraine. Like I have a person who's a psychotherapist, and she's trying to improve her English because she wants to become a programmer, and she lives in the west part of Ukraine, so she's not close
Mm,
to the east part, but still, even it's affecting her livelihood, it's affecting her life. And
wow.
there's this tension in the air.
Damn. And that's a friend of yours.
No, no, one of my students on
Oh, your
iCall.
students. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Damn. Okay. So
yeah.
here is Wilkinson planning from over a month ago, trying to go towards that direction. And what if it turns out that really all of this is being orchestrated just to frustrate your movements, Wilkinson?
If
What if that's the master plot, the great twist,
Look, as
plot
much as
twist?
I like the idea that the world revolves around me, I'm not that egotistic. So
It'd have to be delusional of like epic biblical proportions, like epic proportions.
actually, speaking of the world revolving around you, this kind of points out to something kind of a bit deep. That's a bit hard to articulate. But me and my brother are aware of it. You know how you live, like you can see your own perspective. Like the whole life is happening around your perspective. But obviously, when you die, is life still going to follow your perspective, or is it going to now follow someone else's perspective? If you can get what I mean, I don't know. It's a bit
So,
abstract,
I
but
mean,
I'm
you
trying
you
to
can
say.
I
Yeah.
guess that what you're saying is reality is
Right.
tethered through the lens of your sense of self.
Right.
So you
Right.
see the world through you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when the self ceases, how does you still persist, or
Right.
even your observation of the world?
Right,
You know,
the change to someone else, and in that sense, reincarnation has some kind of truth in that sense, or do you just continue in the afterlife and so on? So that's kind of
so
interesting.
yeah, I mean, I would assume, not assume. I mean, I would what I would say is that you do persist, and your understanding of the world, you see, because okay, even in this world, yeah, this is it. In this world, it's not actually like you, even though you are your kind of body, but you feel you're more than just the body. So
Mm.
you kind of feel you're somewhere situated in the head somewhere.
Right,
Like you
right,
don't, like you say this is my hand, you don't say this is me.
right, right.
And you kind of feel that you're somewhere up there, kind of like controlling this body.
Mm.
And I feel that that is this connection is ultimately, which is consciousness, which is the ruh. And is what continues. So you do have a sense of consciousness, but it's like a non-body. I mean, people would say, well, you might have a different kind of body, let's say as an entity, if you want to say a different kind of entity, a different kind of body, but you're not this exact thing.
Mm.
Now, people have actually experienced, even in this world, out of body experiences.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
um yeah, either through
I've so
sometimes
far. I've so far.
meditation, sometimes through psychedelics. Psychedelics actually can do provide people with incredibly profound a sense of this non-duality of being, where you become like you experience existence without you, but there's
Mm.
still a you that is the conscious you, but you're not separate, but you're not. It's crazy. It's hard to explain in words.
Actually,
Where the subject
yeah,
is the object.
if you talk about psychedelics, one of the first students I had is someone from Belarus, I think. Yeah, he was a Tartar.
Belarus, look at you! All the whole Russian Federation coming in here.
Honestly, yeah, yeah,
Nate,
the whole.
have you got Putin on speed dial as well?
I would tell him. I would tell him. I'll tell him what's what if I had the chance. Anyway, the
I watched this clip where he's telling the spy chief, like, speak clearly, and you can see it's like a 1 minute clip. It's on YouTube. If you just type Putin speak clearly, and the guy who's this kind of senior figure, whoever he is, some kind of intelligence officer, whatever, it's like his soul flashes before his eyes. His life is like his soul is leaving his body. You can see the fear on
wow.
his face. It's crazy. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
So no, the Belarusian student told me about his experience with mushrooms, or
Okay.
psychedelic mushrooms, right? And he was describing what he was experiencing. It's fascinating. So, for example, he could see when the stomata on the plants. The plants, they have stomata on the leaves. That's how they breathe, right? He could see He could see the plants breathing, and I was like, huh? Yeah. You mean like somehow he could see the stomata? Yeah. The stomata are like these coffee-shaped beans that like this basically, and then they open. That's how the plant breathes, and there are loads of those holes on the leaves of the plant, right? Yeah, he could see that, with his naked eye, and then the light from the window, is kind of like going through his body, and he felt that the light from the window was the same as the light from him, and they were the same thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, your subjective experience of the world changes, and I
Yeah.
think this kind of explains how, like you said, like you once mentioned about this book, this guy about he was with shamans, and how the shamans
Yeah.
DNA spoke to all the.
Cosmic Serpent.
Right, cosmic stuff.
Cos-
That's the one you mentioned. Yeah. So how the plants spoke to them and essentially told them, "I'm poisonous. I'm not poisonous," or whatever. So that seems to be how we gain knowledge in the past, right? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Very
It's crazy because when you see it, there is that book. I found that book very interesting. It's not a big book, but in
Yeah.
between, I was losing a bit of interest. And he's done it in a way where he's got a bit of a plot twist. But
Uh-huh.
because you don't know there's a plot twist coming, you start getting a bit bored and thinking, oh, is this it? But towards the end, he does this kind of turn where he ties everything together. And you think, oh, okay, now it was worthwhile reading. But it's fascinating because he's talking about how what he's trying to argue in that book is, in essence, DNA is information, which is unquestionable. But he's saying that DNA has a very low level of kind of bioradiation that it kind of emits.
Yeah, that makes
Now,
sense actually. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
he said that because every source of life has DNA, like even if it's a leaf, it has DNA. So there is a biofield that is
Mm.
created
Mm.
with this kind, which is a kind of a morphic, I suppose what is also called a morphic resonance field, but this field of information that is in perpetual flow within the
So
world
it's
around us. But
there's lots of arcs, huh? Amorphous resonance field. So,
so there's all this, and what he's saying is when a person takes, let's say, psychedelics, they lower their state of consciousness to be able to engage this information
yeah. Mm.
and to interact with it dynamically so they can learn things and they can have real, and I thought, well, okay, that's a very profound way of putting it. Yeah, so it is. And his thing about the snakes, because he's tying the snakes in into the DNA, the kind of double helix thing, and because the snake is also the the what is it, the grandmother of ayahuasca or whatever it is. So
Yeah,
there's
it's a
so yes,
symbol of
this
eternal
whole
life, isn't it? Yeah.
symbol.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're doing it, man. So what else is going on? I could just see here that it said that Putin addressed the nation early today whilst we were doing this live stream, saying Kremlin had decided to carry out a special military operation in eastern Ukraine. Situation requires us to take decisive, swift action. Mr. Putin added that Moscow plans to carry out the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. So,
Wow.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah. But
I don't know what's
I
happening
mean,
there. Oh,
yeah, you can. Yeah. So I mean, basically, I had a student, and because somewhat again from Belarus, but he kind of he's basically uh from what he's saying, Russia has this kind of tactics, right? They kind of go into the country, kind of in the shadows, try to destabilize it, and then they swoop in. I mean, this is a little bit controversial, but perhaps Russia's trying to get back something like the Soviet Union empire
mm,
thing, and it did it in Moldova with
yeah,
Pridnestrovia. It did it in Georgia. Now it's doing it in
yeah.
Ukraine. It's the same old, same
And
old.
plus, Ukraine, I think, because it's the largest country in Europe, I think it for Russia, one, it gets to take the Black Sea through
Yeah.
Crimea, and now this new, I don't know why they called it Donbass. Donbass, not Donbass. Every time I say, I'm thinking you can't take it seriously, can you? They go, we are the representatives of Donbass. It's like no,
It's pronounced Dumas, it's pronounced Dumas. Yeah, I think
or
it's
is it
Dumas.
Donbass?
I think it's Dumas.
You,
It
it just
sounds like you're from Liverpool. He's a Dumas. He's a Dumas.
it still doesn't. It just sounds like okay. You're saying the same thing with an accent. Okay,
Yeah, right.
Dumas.
Yeah.
You okay? Are you three
Dumas.
from Dumas? It's like so.
You want to be by yourself, but you're a Dumas. You know.
I mean, so I think for him, Putin's seeing it as a win-win because he takes the Black Sea, he creates tension with Ukraine. Ukraine, because of its volatility, then doesn't really qualify for NATO, and he gets these extra countries. You're right, which in the future he will just add back to the not Royal Russian Federation.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah,
they themselves are too. They want independence. These two states, right? They want independence, but they're probably too small. So
yeah.
eventually, yeah. Because yeah, yeah. Mm.
Plus, I mean, they called. Obviously, they chose quite like an amazing, spectacular name, which really, I mean, what kind of ambitions could they mirror if they say, okay, first name, what's first on the agenda? Our name
Can
goes
you imagine
Domas.
wars being fought over a region called Dumbass? Like, how far have we fallen? How far have we
The
fallen?
superpowers are like they're kind of at each other's throats. And they're
Yeah.
like, "What is this all over?" They're like, "This is all over, Domas." They're like,
Yeah.
"Which one?" they're like,
Honestly, like I get confused sometimes because I feel like
"It
we're
happens. It happens, Wilkinson. It
yeah,
happens." Is it the gender thing or is it the other? What's the confusion?
you know, many attractive men around here.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
The point is yeah, no, like I just feel like we shouldn't be fighting, honestly. But that's just
Yeah.
obviously,
You know what? Why can't people just get on?
right.
You know
No,
what is
I know we're joking, but I mean we're serious, right?
No,
Like,
wallahi, I'm not. No, I'm being serious. Why?
yeah,
What is wrong? Like, look, you take a country like, okay, look, I get the sea thing. That
yeah,
makes sense. But I don't get the attack. I don't understand that. I get the fact that they want to secure the sea route. Okay, I get it. But look, a country so huge, doing spectacularly well, financially, economically, it's got technologically, scientifically, they're obviously a huge contender.
It's stuck
But
in
like,
the old imperial way of thinking. That's the problem. And I'm not talking about the common people. I'm talking about Putin and the oligarchy, right? They're
yeah,
stuck in that old imperialist thinking. And
yeah.
this is not just me saying it. There are other people who have
But
that
then
too.
this is the problem. This is what I was saying earlier on. You see, I said today earlier on that, look, to me, this is thuggery. It's
Right.
like presidential, kind of at a presidential scale. This is just thuggery. It's like,
It is. It is.
I'm the baddest here. I'm going to do whatever I want. But
It is.
then you see, this is what I said. The problem is that America does the same thing. Now, this is why it's
Yeah.
a so. You see, the hypocrisy is a problem because, okay, let's say Belgium, even though they have got a horrific past, but at least now, or let's say a country that doesn't do that stands up and says, look, guys, behave yourselves. What are you doing? The problem is America has like such a long history of doing the same thing. And this is why everybody is just guilty. Everybody in this is like, well, they're just as bad in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Britain. I mean, oh my God.
Britain as well. Like Britain, you see, they're all just doing these political games. They all, for their own interest, screwing over people. Like, look at Yemen right
Oh my
now is getting
God.
is a catastrophe. And really, it's okay. The Saudis, God knows what their plan is, and the Brits are supplying them weapons. The Americans are kind of supplying them weapons.
Mm.
Innocent, like Yemen is such an impoverished country before all of this. It's like the most impoverished out of probably the Arab states
Mm.
before the attacks. Now, what the hell would it be like now?
Yeah.
And so this is where it gets weird, because when people say, look, we're worried about lives, and I agree, we should be worried, because it's the most fundamental sacred thing we have, the life. But when people say, look, oh, Putin is jeopardizing lives, and that's true, that's a point. But then on the same hand, you're saying, you know what, here, take this, kill all those Yemenis. Or you're saying, well, oh, are you killing them? Like, doesn't, it's
When it
just
suits them,
the,
they say
the
that when it suits them.
insincerity.
Yeah, when it suits them, they care about lives. When it
I
doesn't suit,
tell you something, Wilkinson. If it was a mandatory course for all presidential leaders and ministerial kind of positions of power, that they had to do let's say something like a 20 course of mushrooms and all these things before they get there, right?
yeah, yeah, that would have
I,
been that would.
I guarantee you the world would be. Can you
I
imagine if you got
actually
Putin?
agree with
If you
that.
got Putin and you
Yeah,
put him in a room with, I don't know, Biden and Boris Johnson and these people, and what's the other, Vladimir from Ukraine, and you gave them all MDMA,
no,
right?
they
And then they'll just
tremendous
be like,
things, right?
they'll be like, Putin, don't, yeah, what are you doing here? I'd be like, yeah. And then he'll be like, and I got carried away, yeah. They'll be like, you'll walk in the room and they're all hugging each other. They'll be like,
No, actually, as much as we're joking, I actually do think that would happen because that's
it would
you know
happen.
that
No, it would happen.
it would
It's not.
happen.
It's not a joke. That
It would
these are
happen. Yeah.
empathogens. Like if
Yeah,
they took MDMA, the empathy would be through the roof, and they
right.
would be thinking that, you know what? And if they took mushrooms as well, then they'll probably experience the existence of God as well, and they'll be like, well, this right is not. We're not doing things right. They'll be like, what's happening to nature? They'll all be
Mm,
sitting gardening. It'll be like, we'll hear the news that Putin is sitting outside in his garden, he's planting something.
mm, mm.
And
I think it's what's the world missing. The world is missing just love for humanity. A general. Endemic amongst people. I think that's what's missing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
is sad. I don't, it's, we think that how can these things be, it's interesting because look, the more humans we continue to thrive, and I don't think human population is a crisis or anything, but I'm saying the more we continue to thrive, you see, to people, well, it's just another person. You understand? Like they see it as like, well, there's people everywhere, and losing the value. And you see, even putting that aside, it's not even about, like, even if you're not killing people, they're not killing people, the compassion, you know, the kind of the wanting to actually do something, like a legacy. I mean, in their way, they're trying to leave a legacy of, like, you know, maybe of empire, you know, where we took over, and you know, like imperialism. But what about humanity? That kind of, that legacy that people will say, whoa, man, what a guy, you know, he did this. Like, people look back to great people and say, wow, legends, you know. Yeah, may Allah make it easy, man. But Wilkinson, so you're off tomorrow?
I am, yeah.
Well,
So
okay.
next week, and yeah, we're connected on Instagram.
Yeah,
and,
we're on WhatsApp now. So, right, okay. How long are you staying in Georgia?
There's no time limit, yeah, because
Are
I can
you?
go there on a visa for 1 year, but I'm gonna be there for a few months before I leave
But
it. Yeah.
you're gonna be all set up and stuff, internet and all of that over there.
Right.
Because we got to do our mind trap. We got to have a Wilkinson
You do.
mind trap going down.
You're excited about that. You were excited
I
about
am.
it.
I think it's going to be very interesting. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, especially since you're going to be inside Georgia, I guess you might have an insight to the. You could be like a correspondent. You could stand there, like our correspondent Wilkinson, who's reporting live from Georgia.
So yeah, behind me, you see all these tanks, and no. Hopefully not. No. I don't want that to happen.
Hopefully not, man. Inshallah, this all descales.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Wilkinson, it's been epic, man. I've loved it. Shukran for joining us again. Totally. And we'll speak soon, man. And I'll drop your message on WhatsApp. Let me know as well as you get there. Drop me a message on WhatsApp.
Sure.
Catch up, man. Take care. Much love. As always, a pleasure.